about drugs in Imperial Vienna was that the intentions for using them started out good. It just turned out terribly in the execution. Probably the most famous drug aficionado in all of Habsburg Viennese history was Sigmund Freud. Freud was so enamored of cocaine that he spent about 15 years partaking with prodigious appetite and recommending it to everyone he encountered. No less a personage than the Empress Sisi carried a syringe of cocaine with her everywhere she went, although there's no absolute record of her using it. To be fair, women do have a reputation for putting everything in their purses. But the use of drugs didn't come out of nowhere. There were a lot of diseases that needed to be treated, not least amongst them syphilis. The most famous Habsburg syphilitic was probably Archduke Otto, the ne'er-do-well brother of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Otto rammed his way through life, creating international incidents, having more sex, and using more drugs. By the time of his death, when he was only 41, his nose had rotted off completely due to disease. Since the common treatment for both syphilis and gonorrhea at that time was cocaine, the medical treatment could be where Otto developed his addiction. Maybe. But Otto was by far not alone with his disease in Vienna. Times were changing, and an upwardly mobile bourgeoisie was looking to emulate the noble classes. Upper-class etiquette was adopted, which meant young men had to look presentable to the public. Luckily for their libidos, everything could be kept in-house. The housemaids employed by upwardly mobile families became targets, and it should be no surprise that 1/3 of all women's syphilis cases at that time were amongst household maids. More, in fact, than amongst the actual prostitute population. Upwardly mobile and noble young women, on the other hand, were subject to far more strict rules of behavior, which unfortunately did not keep them from inheriting the syphilis infections picked up during a husband's erstwhile youth.
Oh my!
All of the etiquette, though, was window dressing on Vienna's earned reputation as a party city. The city took so many days off to celebrate that Maria Theresa, as devout a Catholic as she was, abolished all but one church holiday during the year. All the work stoppages for celebration were seriously cutting into the empire's financial bottom line. She was not above putting together her own balls and entertainments, however. She and Emperor Francis loved a good masquerade ball. Celebrations strictly limited to the nobility in order to avoid the ramification of commoners being embroiled in some of the ongoing debauchery. Her favorite masquerades had a Turkish flavor, the Ottoman Empire being the penultimate enemies of the Habsburgs at this time. Enemies they may have been, but the aristocracy was absolutely in love with their made-up idea of Ottoman culture. Maria Theresa even had her portrait painted in her idea of harem couture. She also put together quite the stimulating anti-Ottoman entertainment, getting the creme de la creme together in order to stab papier-mâché Ottoman heads from horseback. But that was not all that went on at these famous Viennese balls. Luckily, we had Maria to play history detective and give us the inside scoop on the ball scene in sex, drugs, and rock and roll in Habsburg Vienna. Next week, we'll finish it up with pages 170 to 207, where we'll learn, among other things, about courtly bathroom arrangements. And lest there be an argument that such things are not historically necessary, I'd beg all to remember that some of Martin Luther's most fire and brimstone sermons were written during the throes of debilitating constipation. If he had been more regular, perhaps he wouldn't have seen it necessary to kick off the Reformation. History, again, is merely gossip. And more info for those reading along with us. If the stories of sex in Habsburg times have piqued your interest, Maria not only wrote the book, but she leads the tours. And you can join her in investigating all the lurid and wonderful sights she describes in Viennese history. It all had far more influence on current events than you might think.
Oh, I love it!